That very night, outside the Bull Kingdom's military camp, Prince Uriel stands alone beneath the quiet stars, lost in thought. After much pacing and frowning, he comes to a conclusion. The only way to avoid meeting Ragna is to pretend that he's already dating someone, anyone at all. But as he refines the idea, it must be someone who doesn't genuinely love him, someone who owes him a debt, someone who can't refuse his request. At that moment, the second princess and commander of the Holy Kingdom soldiers, Sabila, appears before him. The instant he sees her, it's as if fate answers his thoughts. She's the perfect candidate. A bright grin spreads across Prince Uriel's face as he steps forward and places both hands on Sabila's shoulders. Sabila blinks in confusion, stammering as she tries to ask what he's doing, but he only continues to smile, looking oddly pleased with himself. When his excitement finally fades, Yuri asks if she remembers that one time he saved her. She nods nervously, still unsure what he's getting at. He tells her that he's going to need her help soon, and that it can't be anyone else but her. Before she can even form a reply, he suddenly dashes off, shouting over his shoulder. He tells her that he'll see her then. Sabila stands frozen in place, trying to make sense of what just happened. She calls for him to wait, saying he at least owes her an explanation, but he's already gone, leaving her alone in the quiet night. She sighs in frustration and mutters under her breath, wondering what on earth is wrong with him. A voice suddenly calls out from behind her, addressing her as Your Highness. She stiffens and turns, only to see Sir Finnick standing there with his usual hearty smile. Her patience thins immediately, and before she can speak, he remarks that she and Prince Yuri look great together. Sabila stares blankly at him, trying to process his words. But Sir Finnick only smiles brighter, and pats his chest, declaring that he will be genuinely rooting for the two of them. She almost says something but stops herself midway, deciding it isn't worth the effort. Exhaustion settles over her as she exhales and tilts her head toward the luminous night sky. All she can think is how much she wants everyone to disappear and leave her in peace. The next day, under the bright morning sky, Supreme Commander Ragna leads the entire army of the Allied forces on their march, riding at the very front. As his knights approached, one of them, Jared, rode closer to Prince Yuri. Addressing him as Your Highness, Jared mentioned he had heard the recent rumors. With a straight face and his eyes fixed forward, Yuri inquired about the specific words he was referring to. Jared explained it concerned the reason the Supreme Commander kept summoning him, voicing the very topic Yuri wished to avoid. Rumor had it the Supreme Commander was discussing marriage. Feigning disinterest, Yuri dismissed the notion entirely, telling Jared to wake up. Hearing muffled laughter from behind, Yuri glanced back to see his other knights smiling widely. He clicked his tongue, remarking that they must be terribly bored to get caught up in such pointless gossip. As they continued their ride, a sudden flurry of movement in the sky captured everyone's attention. Dozens of crows flew across the valley ahead, their cries echoing over the marching army. Frowning, Yuri looked up, wondering at their numbers. As the sight distracted him, his horse, along with several others at the front, began to neigh and stir violently. Startled, Yuri tightened his grip on the reins, trying to control his mount while demanding to know what was happening. Once the horse calmed, Jared announced he would ride ahead to investigate. Yuri immediately insisted on going with him. They spurred their horses forward, quickly reaching the front where a man named Ragna was. Yuri called out to him as they approached, but upon reaching the top of the slope, he was rendered speechless. The valley ahead was a gruesome spectacle. Severed human heads hung from pikes, and half-eaten bodies lay scattered, some still impaled on sharpened stakes, others torn apart and left to rot under the sun. Jared's face turned pale, and his voice trembled as he muttered an unfinished prayer, unable to comprehend the scene. Ragna, however, met the sight with a faint smile, finishing Jared's prayer for him and commenting that the orcs' welcome ceremony was quite amusing. The stench of decay forced Yuri to cover his nose as he quietly analyzed the horrific display. The orcs had used human bodies as macabre ornaments, skewering them on shafts before even finishing their meal, leaving them as a clear and mocking message. This is what you're worth. His chest tightens with fury, and he strikes his fist over his heart, calling out to the Supreme Commander. He tells Ragna that this sight will break the soldiers' morale if left like this, and requests permission for the Bull forces to handle the cleanup. Ragna turns to him, his gaze steady, and gives a single nod. He grants his permission. Yuri, as the commander of the Bulls, calls out to his soldiers and knights, telling them to prepare their torches. Moments later, they light them and begin their descent into the valley where the bodies are. There they line up the corpses, pull out the pikes, and burn the remains, clearing the area one section at a time. The flames rise and smoke spreads through the valley as the soldiers work in silence. Yuri notices one soldier standing still, his morale crushed, as he looks down at the burning bodies. The soldier mutters how the orcs could do something like this, and Yuri steps closer, telling him not to let it get to him. After those few words, Yuri scans the valley again and spots two soldiers, Duenas and Dyke, separated from the rest and venturing too far in. He raises his voice, calling out both their names, ordering them not to go any further and to come back immediately. The two instantly turn at his command and salute, replying that they'll return right away. Before heading back, Duenas glances at the ground and says to Dyke that this place feels strange. Dyke, confused, asks how. Duenas points at one of the bodies and the arrows scattered nearby, saying the arrowheads are pointing toward the ground, but that's the opposite direction from where the orcs impaled the corpses. He adds that it almost looks as if the orcs shot them from above. As he finishes, several orcs appear above the cliffs behind them, bows already drawn. The two still haven't noticed them. Dyke replies absent-mindedly, asking if that's so when an orc releases his arrow. The next instant, the shaft pierces Duenas's back, and blood splashes across Dyke's face. Duenas gasps, coughing blood, and drops to his knees, groaning in pain. Dyke freezes, then panics, shouting Duenas's name. Seeing the wound, he stumbles back, clutching his sword before realizing what's happening. He draws it at once and shouts to alert everyone that it's an enemy attack. On the cliffs, the orcs ready their bows in unison. At a single guttural command, they loose their arrows, and a rain of shafts descends toward the two. Dyke looks up and sees death falling toward him. His mind races. He thinks it's over, that he has to run, but his feet don't move. He hesitates, glancing at Duenas and wondering what he can do. At that moment, Prince Yuri Briel charges forward from the distance, shouting for Dyke to ready his shoulder. Dyke obeys instantly, and as Yuri reaches them, he uses Dyke's shoulder as leverage to launch himself forward. With mana surging through his body, Yuri swings his sword, cutting through the incoming arrows in a flurry of strikes. Every arrow in his path shatters, not a single one reaches the ground. He lands with one knee down, surrounded by falling arrow fragments, and calls to Duenas. Seeing that he's still alive, Yuri tells Dyke to take him and go with Simon to request aid from the Holy Kingdom. He adds that it will help if they mention his name, Yuri Briel. As they move to obey, Yuri turns back to the cliffs and narrows his eyes. The orcs remain still for a moment, then slowly begin to turn away. He watches them leave and realizes that their behavior carries a message. They're backing off as if to say they've done all the warning they needed. He grits his teeth, wondering if they're implying that they can kill humans whenever they please. He takes it as a provocation and mutters that it's fine, he'll accept it. But even as he says it, he sheaths his sword, watching the orcs fade into the cliffs, and tells himself that he can't let this pass this time. Later that same afternoon, once the valley is cleared and the camp has been set, Yuri reports everything that happened to Ragna. The Supreme Commander listens in silence before repeating his words. A hidden ambush from the top right. He says that's not good since they have no route around it, and concludes that the hidden orc unit will have to be eliminated. Then, with a steady tone, Ragna asks Yuri what he intends to do. Yuri answers with a confident smile, asking if there's anything else to consider. He tells Ragna that he just needs the archery units to pressure the enemy ambushers so they can't come out. With one hand holding his wrist behind his back, and his manha rising around him, he states that in the meantime, he and his soldiers will take the top of the rift,